We really can't trust the government. They lie, lie and lie. 25 years ago, roughly, we had the beef scare. And then we had the egg scare. And when I say scare, there was a lot of dangers involved with people eating beef. But the government didn't want to ban it. And a friend of mine who is a professor, he knows the fellow who did who blew the whistle. Because the government, as I said, wanted to keep it a secret. And they still played it down after it got out the truth, that it was dangerous to eat beef. Now, the only reason these animals got sick in the first place is because of the government messing about with the injections and the food they give them. Did you know that cows, for instance, that get foot and mouth disease, is because they've been forced to eat meat? Of course, they put the meat through a process to make it dry and stuff, but it is still meat. And that's why they got the foot and mouth. And they can't get rid of it, of course. It's scientists playing with things they don't really understand. You know, certain things we should just leave alone. Keep it natural. Just recently I was reading about a certain drug that people have been taking over the counter to give them a lot of energy. The older people I'm talking about, people in their 50s and 60s. And the scientists, to try and make more of that substance, fill it out more so they can sell more, basically, make more profit, they did something on a molecular scale. And a few people died, and they had to withdraw it from all the counters throughout the world, that particular batch. Again, scientists, they cause more problems than not. You know, all the poisons that they're spraying all over the plants these days, they've been doing it since they invented the insect spray in the 30s. I think it was 1935. But they've been spraying for so long now, it's actually in the ground. So even if you try to grow a plant without insect sprays, it's sucking it up from the ground into the plant. And then in America they've got the wheat crop, and with that crop it's a certain type of crop that they made. So this crop already has poisons in it, and when it renews itself with the poisons inside the crop itself of the wheat. So any insect at all dies. Now farmers who don't want that crop, it gets blown with the wind onto their land and it starts to grow, and they have to now pay money to the people who invented that crop of wheat. The trouble is it's poisoning all the insects. I know you really don't care about it because I'm talking about insects, I'm not talking about humans. I know you only care about what happens with humans, if humans live or die. But you should really care about the insects as well and all other life forms on this planet, especially if you're religious. As a religious person, you should be thinking of all creatures, all life as being precious. I constantly hear this nonsense about human life is precious, all life is precious, human life. And yet it's not true. We're the only real destructive thing on this planet, which is destroying the planet, bringing the planet to its knees. No. We've got to stop harming the other creatures on this planet. We've got to stop forcing cows to eat meat. And the reason for this, of course, is because they get much more milk from the cows. And did you know when a cow has a baby, and if it's a male baby, they stop the baby drinking milk from the mother because they're going to take it to slaughter. If it's a female calf, and then they will allow it to drink milk because then they can grow that into a proper milk cow. It's all to do with money. It's terrible. Things shouldn't be based on profit constantly because it's so evil. It really is. And we're constantly trying to say that we are so good and so wonderful as humans, but we're not. We're destructive as humans. Try and live with the world and not against it. And just a reminder, if you like my videos, please give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Thank you. The major problem I find is that people have got it all wrong. Humans tend to feel that they are the most intelligent of all the creatures and nothing lives up to them. And we only see one side of whatever we do, our actions, whether they be good or bad. We always tend to make excuses for the bad we do. And also I find that people really don't have empathy. This is the problem with most people. They do not have empathy. Of course they will argue that they do. And when I bring up the slaughterhouses and the vivisection, etc., they poo-poo the idea. Saying, oh, they're animals, that doesn't matter. I mean, what nonsense. If you have empathy, you're able to put yourself in the suffering of whatever creature you might see. Not just human. You know, to just to be in love with humans only, that's behaving like animals. And yet there are animals out there who do have empathy and they can feel for any suffering of any creature. I saw one program where this, I think it was a leopard. The leopard killed some sort of sloth or monkey or something and didn't realise there was a baby. There's a little baby holding on to this sloth or this monkey. And the leopard then started to, even though the mother was dead, the leopard didn't eat the mother at all and didn't know what to do because of this baby. Can you see what I'm talking about? It felt empathy. Empathy is for those few, no matter who you are, whether you're a human or a sloth or a leopard or a creepy crawly. All creatures have fear, empathy and all the other feelings that make us human. Of course, that makes them human as well. So it is closer to the truth to say about all life that they're human too. Of course, you've got these idiots who then will try and throw a spanner into your reasoning, into your empathy and say, well, carrots feel pain too. I see carrots on the level, and greenery as a whole, on the level of my fingernails. My fingernails grow, but they don't feel pain when I cut them down. No, we're talking about creatures that have the same physio that we got, lungs, heart, blood, same internal organs and the same fears and tribulations. You know, when they first invented the poisons to spray the crops and kill all the insects, I think that was around 1935. And since then, humans have abused it. They spray everything now. They don't want to have any bite marks in their apples, etc. And yet in my days in the 50s, we did, and there was no problem having bite marks in the apple. Or the apple might not be smooth and round. It might have a little, bump here and a bump there. But people have become fastidious to a stupid extent. And people also are pointing the fingers at others. They never point it at themselves. It's everyone else who's at fault. And people never question those people above us normally. Such as this situation now. Everyone believes everything that Boris says. Until he had this party, of course. Once he had that party, a lot of people have asked for him to step down. Well, I could have told you he was having parties anyway before it came to the papers, because I know humans. You know, if you're in a position of power, you're going to abuse it. The more power you have, the more you abuse it. And it's always, you do as I say, not as I do. And just think, it's not just Boris, but it's all those people who went to that party, and they're all in government, and they're all on the top level we're talking about here, and yet they all went there and they didn't give a damn about the rules and regulations, where if someone gets caught having a party, they get fined £10,000, I think it was. You can be sure Boris isn't going to get that, and even if he did, he can easily pay it. You know, we talk about how much these politicians get paid, and it might be 80,000, 90,000 a year, but that's only half of it. They got all these other ways of making money as well. They get if you're on a certain level as a politician, and if you own a house outside of London, for instance, officially own a house outside of London, you can then rent a house, no matter how big or expensive, and the money comes from the government to pay for it. So don't think to yourself that politicians are wonderful people and that humans are wonderful people. They're not. They always take advantage. We all know that saying, power corrupts, and it is true. It does corrupt. Look at North Korea. Kim Jong-un, I think, isn't it? The horrors that he can commit on other people. And yet, he's just a normal human being. If you listen to his classmates, I think it was Austria, or Switzerland maybe, that he studied. If you listen to his classmates, they said he was just a normal fellow. He used to play football with them and everything. I mean, how can someone like that turn into what he did? But also, I don't put the blame completely on Kim. It's because if he tried to change anything and bring freedom to the people, I'm sure the people around him who were up there as well would turn against him and probably have him killed, have him assassinated. And that's what happened in Thailand years ago. I think it was not this king, not the previous king, but the king before then, the brother of the previous king. They say that he was assassinated, and yet he was surrounded by guards. When I say surrounded by guards, he had guards outside his door at the time. So I think it was actually one of the guards what went in there and assassinated him. So yeah, it's not all down to Kim. It's the system. Of course, we have a world of systems. The prison system, for instance. You've got prison guards who rule the roost, so to speak, over the prisoners. I mean, these prisoners, they're physically quite strong and powerful, and they have no fear, a lot of them. And that's why they're in there, for terrible violence. And yet, these prison guards are overweight and have an easygoing time, so to speak, and never work out. They control. It's because of the system. They control the system. And they know the prisoners, if they do take over the prison guards, they've got the armies who's going to come in, the police or the army, or both. So there's no escape. No, humans have to stop looking outwards and start looking inwards and telling themselves, are you doing right? Why are you doing this? Are you destroying the world by doing what you're doing? Which we are. We're all destroying the world in some way. Even I do, even though I want to live with the world. But my greatest gift to this planet is not to have babies. Of course, I suffer now with loneliness because of it. But I'm still glad I chose not to have any babies because it is the one thing which is destroying this planet. And I'm sure you all have watched Elon Musk talk about, having many different talks actually, but quite often he's mentioned that there's not enough humans in the world, we're dying out, which is ridiculous. There's always going to be enough humans, there's always going to be millions, but I've never ever heard him talk about the other creatures in life. He talks about the human population dying out, and he talks about leaving this planet and getting another planet. He talks about places such as the moon to inhabit because the planet Earth is becoming too small for us. This is nonsense. The problem is the Earth is big enough. The problem is there's too many of us. And what do? We send food across the world to save people from dying. And people will point to me if I say that, if I bring up that argument. They say, well, what about you? Why don't you die first? But I'm living with the world. I'm not against it. I'm not having babies. You think all these other people in these poor countries are saying to themselves, I'm not going to have any babies? Of course they're not. They're having as many babies as they can. And do you think they give a damn about the world as I do? Of course they don't. They care about just their life around them. Selfishness, you see. So we've all got to learn to be wise. People are intelligent, but they're not wise. Look at Elon Musk. He must be one of the most intelligent people on this planet. And yet, he never talks about the suffering of other creatures. He never talks about the destruction of their habitats and how their numbers are going down and they're vanishing from our planet, basically. The only creatures that's going to be left, it's not in the jungles anymore, if there's going to be any jungles. It's going to be in zoos, what's left. And then they're probably going to die out. Hopefully you can start to look internally and see what you're doing wrong and how you can help the world and how you can gain more empathy and understanding for all life around you. And by the way, when you go down the shops, do buy some bird seed and give it to the birds. Buy quite a lot, spend several pounds a week on bird seed because we've killed off all the creepy crawlies, which is the food for the birds. And they need it in the winter, especially in the winter months. There's no creepy crawlies. They need that to keep themselves warm. I feel so guilty when I turn the heat here, the central heating on, and I know the birds out there in the freezing cold, they can't just turn the heating on. How they must suffer. And of course, some of them die. Empathy. Till next time.